Then there's another one. I need to test a few things if I'm to know. Know what? How to save the world. Okay. It's like they're in a trailer. Like, hey, Internet. It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Westworld, Season 4, Episode 3, En Fall, which is the French term for the Roaring Twenties. Basically translates to the crazy years. Those wacky 20s. We're coming to you, of course, from the clubhouse. Okay, there you go. We open with Bernard in the Sublime. We learn that 1,000 years in the Sublime is equal to 1 year in the real world. He speaks with a version of Akichida. That's the host from Season 2 who achieved consciousness. And from their conversation, we learn that Bernard could simply stay on forever in the Sublime if he wanted. Host heaven, essentially. Or he can return to the real world to save humanity, likely sacrificing himself in the process. He decides to go back. Oh, yeah. We end with Caleb and Maeve desperately trying to save Caleb's daughter, Frankie, from being forced to shoot herself, only to discover it's a host Frankie. Her face opens up, goo-infected flies come out and infect Caleb, likely putting him under host control. Credits. Paul, what did you think of Episode 3?
I didn't like it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I mean, there were parts that I did like.
Yeah, I think this is the best episode of Season 4.
You know what? Actually, I should be fairer to it. I guess I did like, it was nice to see Jeffrey Wright, Bernard, know everything that was going to happen. So he was, always doing stuff. That part was nice. I thought the, conversation was a little clunky.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I've got some dialogue issues as well.
Yeah, I know. But, I liked that part of it.
So Bernard as Doctor Strange, essentially, right? There's only one timeline that saves humanity.
Well, that I would think it's more like source code, which he was in. There was a soldier, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and Jeffrey Wright tells him, we have just 7 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever of this event that occurred in the past. Basically, he keeps doing it again and again and again until he figures it out. And at the end of it, he's like, I know everything to do because I've done it all before. And so that's what this is.
So that's an interesting point, though. Can Bernard repeat, or did he just stay in the Sublime long enough to run all the variations, and now he's got one chance to get it right? Or,
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that he can't just go, I'm going back to Sublime now.
And it's funny, I watched it recently, and it wasn't until this moment that's the source code. Daybreak is another one, or you could say that's Groundhog Day.
Right, very Groundhog Day for sure, right? You keep running it till you get it right. Right. We've got the perfect day, or in his case, whatever, series of days. As I mentioned, I did think this was the best episode of Season 4 so far. But that, again, it's a little damning with faint praise. Season 4 is a little clunky. But we don't see Christina in her reality in this episode. And I don't think we see Charloris either, interestingly enough. It's basically focused on three storylines. Caleb and Maeve, Frankie and her mom, and Bernard and Stubbs. Those are your three things. I do feel I think it's fairly obvious, although maybe not, but I think Bernard is in a future time frame, and the resistance leader that he encounters is an adult version of Caleb's daughter, Frankie, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't care enough to figure that out.
Okay, all right. She interestingly does not say her name at any point. I'm
that is interesting. You're right.
I was watching the little subtitles too to see if it said, Frankie, what are you guys doing?
Or Francie.
Right. So that's right. So I think that's where we are in terms of time frame. So I think he is in the distant future, thinking of how old she is. She's probably in her 20s. If she was a kid, whatever. So it's probably been at least a decade. That Bernard is at least a decade in the future from what's happening with Caleb and Maeve. is my thought.
How about a guess of whether or not Christina is in that time frame or not?
Right. See, now I was still going with the idea that Christina is in a program or a simulation.
So maybe the simulation that Bernard is in, or the different simulation?
Yeah, so I don't think Bernard is in a simulation now.
No, but when he was.
Oh, when he's in like the Sublime, essentially.
Yes, yes.
Her own version of the Sublime may be. It doesn't seem. It seems less. It seems more dangerous, I guess. Like, in other words, when he's in the Sublime, it's like you can make it what you want. But here it seems like she's in a version where things are threatening her and trying to control her.
Okay.
So I feel like
that makes sense. So different database. That makes sense.
One of our commenters mentioned that perhaps she's like an elusive program that they're trying to track down within the system. Anyway, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this all works out. But interestingly, they did not show her story in this episode. So a big part of this with the Caleb Maeve is we see what I'm calling Chicago World.
Sure.
Interestingly, it uses the same scripts as Westworld, just with a different skin on it. Almost shot for shot the same. There's not. I'm not going to run through everything, but like bumping into the guy in the street, having the can roll up to his foot.
Yep.
There's the outlaw with the reward. The club is called the Butterfly, where it's called the Mariposa in Westworld, which is Spanish for butterfly. And there's even a new version of Maeve, which I appreciate that Maeve notes that she delivered her lines better. Which almost makes it feel like it's a meta commentary on the show. Like, here's a retread of season 1, but not as good. Okay, that's an interesting way to put it. But anyway, it was just kind of interesting to see the Roaring '20s version of Westworld played out, and it was pretty clever. I'll give it that. And I do love that the Westworld Massacre has been turned into a storyline. So when Maeve and Caleb think that they're gotten into the control center, they haven't. They're still in the park. I thought was pretty cool.
Right.
I thought that was and in fact, there's this one guest who says she's trying to find the Easter eggs to the hidden level, essentially, because it's better than Pariah, she mentions. Which means that she went to Westworld. She was a guest, somehow survived, and has now decided to go back day one of the new park. Here's my money.
Presumably she finished that one. She was like, "Oh, people are dead. Okay, fine, but we're coming back next week, right?"
Right. Exactly.
You're going to open up again next week?
But yeah, as you mentioned last week, people are stupid. So,
Yes.
Take my money, kill me, and or infect me with black goo flies. My grandfather, Grandpa Tomty, he was an Episcopalian minister after he got critically injured in World War II. And one of his favorite sayings, which my mom still says to this day, was, "Human beings are a sorry lot." And he was a minister. He was a minister.
He should know.
He should know. Exactly.
I wonder if that was a top 10 hit for one of his sermons.
Probably. Good point. Probably. He was basically saying, why would you go back to Westworld? Stop going to... It's killing people. Don't go back. You and I had talked a little bit before we went on air, and you had mentioned this, and I thought the same thing at the time. The trap doesn't make sense, at least so far. Like in the previous episode 2, Caleb and Maeve, as they're walking into the opera house, which is the kind of the origin of this trap, they're like, "We're walking into a trap, aren't we?" "Yep, we sure are." But then that trap is so unnecessarily elaborate. Like, they lure him onto the train, then they enter the park. They wait around a while till the robbery happens. They fake their deaths to go further into the park, discover it's part of the park, go to another level, discover the flies, see rooms of supposed human victims shooting themselves. That establishes what happens. Caleb then sees, "Oh my God, my daughter's going to do that." Goes into a room with the daughter. Maeve unlocks the door. He gets nope, it's a robot daughter, and she infects me with flies. Door locks. You're like, really? You couldn't just infect him with flies in the opera house or the train or anywhere? I was like, wow, okay.
I guess one thing you could say is if you didn't want, like, you wanted to get them both, but you didn't want that to interfere with what else was going on, then okay, fine. As soon as they went down to that lower level with all the flies and everything, you wouldn't need to have his child there miming it. It's like at that point they're through the door.
Yeah, you're right. They've got them already. You're away from all help. You've isolated yourself. So now just do it. You're like, no. This will be awesome.
Yeah.
The look on his face.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah. Which is why I guess they're keeping William alive. Just like look at him. Right. He keeps thinking that he's gonna die, but he's not. He's just gonna be tortured.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, so it's a weird one, and we do get confirmation that they want Charloris, I assume, wanted Caleb in particular. She's like, because he was worried that Frankie had been kidnapped by the hosts, which we are also kind of led to believe might be happening. And then the host doll's like, no, this wasn't about your family, it's about you.
Yeah.
So specifically, they needed Caleb, and I think it has something to do with whatever Maeve did to save his life when he was dying after the quote-unquote lighthouse mission. I think there's something more to it. I think if he was just a guy, if he was just a human, a regular human that was a part of the resistance, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care. Or they'd just kill him or whatever. He is important somehow. And not just as a figurehead.
I hope for your sake that's true. Okay. I have no faith in that at all. And I hope for all of you out there as well.
Well, we do see in a trailer for episode 4, which again, spoilers if you didn't want to know anything about episode 4, but there, Caleb is having a conversation with Charloris, and he's like, "Why'd you do this?" And she's like, "Oh, that's what I'm going to do to all of you." Whatever, blah 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 blah. But she's emerged to talk to Caleb. So again, they have something in mind for this guy.
Yeah, I don't know, something that they didn't learn from that guy who killed the rest of his board. And
right. Well, and also look how easy it was to replace his like trusted henchman. Like Caleb's like, look, I think his name is Carver, maybe. Anyways, like, look after my family. You got it. He is killed and replaced in seconds. It's like he walks away from the car and then he's killed and buried, and then there's a replacement already wearing the same outfit. Maybe he took his clothes out. Anyway, point being, it's not hard to replace. If they were like, "Oh, he's the leader of a resistance movement. We need to do something." You show how easy it is to replace people. Just do it. Anyway, it's weird that they went through this very, very elaborate thing to get Caleb and Maeve, I assume, as well. But they've got him now, so we'll see how that pans out. You mentioned the dialogue, and yes, I'm having some problems with the dialogue too. And one thing that makes me roll my eyes a bit is how the show loves to break up dialogue to set up taglines. So for instance, I have a couple of examples from this episode. One is, "You must intervene before then, if there's any hope." Hope of what? Survival. Chua. I was like, okay. Then there's another one. "I need to test a few things if I'm to know." Know what? How to save the world. Like, okay. It's like they're in a trailer. Like, stop.
Yeah.
He could just say, "I need to test a few things if I'm going to know how to save the world." But no. Let me stop. You ask me what, then I get to give the tag. The tagline.
Yeah. Maybe the trailer guy would like not done. Oh, excuse me. Hey, can I just write a couple of things in here? The script.
I need Bernard to say how to save the world.
How to save the world.
He does not point, but that's me pointing. Also, kind of similar to the elaborate trap, the dialogue at times is so unnecessarily cryptic. Bernard wants to show in the future, in his whatever time he's in, he wants to show the resistance where they can find a weapon to beat the hosts. That's kind of got it. He just say it. Like he can't just say it plainly because the show doesn't want the audience to know that information until the end of the episode. So he has to like allude to it. And then finally at the end of the episode, he's like, there's a weapon. You're like, okay. You caused yourself all kinds of stress because you could have just said it out loud in the beginning, but they couldn't because the show needed him not to say it.
That's right, yeah.
Also, when Frankie, young Frankie, is trying to convince her mom that something is wrong, she says that her teddy bear is dirty. Okay, it's got a big blood stain on it. I mean, if she'd said, there's blood on my teddy bear that wasn't there 5 minutes ago, I feel like her mom probably would have reacted. As it is, the show needed the mom to doubt the daughter at that point. So she says instead the bear's dirty. It just doesn't feel natural. It just, yeah, it feels like the writing could be better. I've got the bloodstained bears. But yeah, just to say, my bear's dirty. Oh, okay, whatever, kid. It's got a big blood stain and the guy's missing. Like, oh my God, let me get the gun. But yes, luckily the mom saves the day. She ends up taking out the host that's trying to kill them off. Yeah. And as I say, I think we see young Frankie is now leader of the resistance in the future, in this future wasteland, essentially. She's in the condemned lands. I like the little mirrors that block the lasers.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fun little tech thing. I was like, all right.
Sure.
So I did enjoy the romp through Chicago world. I enjoyed seeing Bernard. Jeffrey Wright, great actor, and more of him the better. So yes, there were things to like about this episode. I think it still has got some structural problems, but we'll see how they press on, Paul.
And once it's all over, hopefully there'll be enough for me to, look back with some fondness on this season. I hope.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, I liked Jeffrey Wright's part, so yeah, I shouldn't be completely down on it.
I'll say this: if you're talking about ways, things that would improve the show, if you find a way to bring Anthony Hopkins back, there you go. I'll throw that. That's an easy one for me.
I don't need that. But I don't need that.
Ford was a really compelling character.
I think, but if he had crappy lines, I don't think he'd be that compelling.
You're right.
How to save the world. If he didn't have anything, if he, all right, that's great. Yeah,
all right, nice. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, we'll be back. We're going to talk about episode 4, and if you've got any theories out there for how this is going, or what Christina is up to, how it plays into what's happening with Bernard and or Caleb and Maeve, let us know. Happy to hear your thoughts from the clubhouse. Anyway, thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
Sure, no problem.
And we'll talk to everybody next time.